Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand.
Today, my guest is former WWE developmental talent, Mr. Jay Nobles. Jay, how are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on, man? Happy to be on the show.
Thank you for taking the time out. I'm going to ask you a question you've probably been asked a million times, but
All
what
right.
made you want to get into professional wrestling?
I'd probably say like every other young boy my age, you grow up watching Terminator and Conan, and you see Hulk Hogan on TV. Oh man, I want to be a bodybuilder. Okay, I want to wrestle on TV. So you got He-Man and all those crazy superheroes around, and you're like, you know what? I can actually do this on television. Cool.
Hmm.
And then you see guys like the Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude, and then you see like the smaller guys like Bret Hart and just those big, just bigger than life, personalities and just the fans and the fanfare and the crowd and the music and the titles and the championships. You're like, man, I want to do that one day.
So, at what point did you say this was something you were going to pursue, and how did you start pursuing professional wrestling?
I'd probably say after I got out of the military, man. I got out of the military in 03, 04. And when I came back home, I was a dental assistant in the military. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I came back from Germany, and I found out that my qualifications that I earned in the military, they wouldn't transfer over to civilian life. So I went through kind of like a bout of depression. I was like, man, what the hell am I going to do for work? Like, I'm a soldier. I don't have a college degree. All I have is a high school education. Like, I don't know anything. So I ended up working at IHOP for a couple of years, and leave it up to God, leave it up to fate, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm in the gym one day, and I'm wearing a Degeneration X shirt, and one of the trainers at the gym, he's wearing a Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt, and he's on the bench next to me, right? So we struck up a conversation about wrestling, and he goes, you know what? A guy I bounced at the club with, his name is Shane. His name is Shane Acuff. Shout out to Shane Acuff. Man, I still remember you. I love you. Thank you very, very much. I want to say it was like October, and it was really cold. So we're from Virginia, very very
Hmm.
cold out there. So I go to this club. Me and Shane stand outside in the rain for about 2 hours, just talking about the business. Right? I don't care. It's cold. I'm soaking wet, but I don't care. This guy is my way into the door to getting to where I want to go. And at the time, the only wrestling schools that were around were OVW. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I'm 21, 22 years old. I don't really know how I'm going to make my way down there, but this is the guy that can potentially get me a look,
Hmm.
a WWE. He says, "Listen, there's a wrestling school called VCW, Vanguard Championship Wrestling, out of it was Newport News, Virginia at the time. He's like, I can take you up there. I can get you an interview. I can't promise you anything, but I'll make the introduction, and after that, you're on your own." So he took me up there. I talked to Travis Bradshaw, Damian Wayne Costal, um, Jason Register, Sean Denny, also known as Sean Lee, who's had some incredible battles with uh, Daniel Bryan. I'm sorry, um, Brian Danielson over back in the early 2000s in ROH, and those guys really helped train me and get me up to speed. And Phil Brown, who also helped train me, he took me to a house show, in I want to say it was Hampton, Virginia, and I ended up working. About 15 minutes in the ring with Kofi Kingston. This was before he debuted. This is when he still had the Jamaican accent. When he came out to the SOS, I hear them shouting. Yeah, so this is the night that he debuted. Kofi and I got in the ring. We worked for about 15 minutes. Ty Bailey said, "Hey, we want to talk to you." So I get out of the ring. I'm thinking I did something wrong, right? He goes, "Let me stand over here and talk to you for a bit." He goes, "Listen." He goes, "We want to offer you an opportunity. We're going to send you down to Florida, go down to FCW. We're going to pay you and teach you how to become a star." And I said, "When do I leave?" And that was
Say
it, man.
less.
That's say less. That was it.
So, how was that transition down to Florida?
It was it was different. It was very very different. And the reason why is because I came in there by myself. I'm in Florida. I don't know anyone. And before I had gotten down to Florida, I had gotten some advice, and they said, "Listen, kind of stay away from the boys. The boys kind of they kind of chit chat. So make sure wherever you live, you kind of live far away from the boys."
Hmm.
I kind of wish I would have taken some different advice because it seems like wrestling is a business where you really have to get along with your with your coworkers, right? And if you're the outsider, things don't really work out as well for you. But I tell you what, though, man, it was a great time, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
What year did you get signed?
I got signed in '07,
Okay.
and I did not go down to Florida until '08.
Now, did they have the Dale Mabry building already or built, or was it?
So, man, so let me tell you. So when I first got there, this building was a piece of sh. Yeah. So we were attached to a furniture store. Um, the furniture store had a storage, like a big, it looked like it might have been a Costco or something like that, but it had like canned goods stored all in like the storage warehouse. And we had one ring, and it was like 100 degrees. You know how Florida is, man. Florida's stupid hot in the summertime. So like I'm talking about, the ring is hot, the ring is sweaty. Guys are getting ringworm. We can't work on the mat anymore because the ring is so sweaty, and guys were slipping and falling, and it's just crazy. So it was kind of cool to be there. And at the time, this is really before Instagram and all those social media platforms got really hot. So at the time, we weren't allowed to really post anything on what we were doing online, as far as training or anything that we were doing as far as developmental goals. We were kind of like the bastard kids of WWE, if you will.
Mhm.
You know. But once things really got settled and Triple H took over, more of the production side, it was kind of overseeing more of the developmental stuff.
Mhm.
You saw a lot of really really crazy changes. I mean, Dusty was down there. We had I think we had the every 2 or 3 weeks we had the television produced shows for FCW TV. Those were kind of cool to be done, and to really be a part of that process, man. It's just really really crazy to see how much production goes into actually doing one of these 1 hour shows. I mean, it's just like word for word, everything is pretty much scripted. Yeah.
Yeah. So how was that? You did the indies, and then you went straight into the developmental. What it was then? Was there anything that stood out more during your first time getting there and seeing how WWE wanted to do things, like their style?
It was a really weird time at that time when we were signed, because we were just getting out of the Attitude Era.
Hmm.
We were in the PG era now. So WWE was transitioning from a private corporation over to a board of directors corporate, right?
Hmm.
Corporate company. So they're looking for new sponsors, which means that they had to kind of clean up their content a little bit. So like certain things you couldn't say, I'm gonna whip your ass on TV anymore. It was certain things like that. So there were certain moves we couldn't do anymore. There were certain words that we weren't allowed to say. We could not refer to ourselves as wrestlers anymore. You couldn't say words like belt or championship title. You had to say championship. You couldn't say belt. You couldn't say wrestler. There was just a lot of a lot of very minute details that they wanted from us that we couldn't do on TV. That you kind of grow up becoming a fan of this business, wanting to do, and then find out later on you can't do these things. You're like, oh shit, okay, well, all right, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's figure it out again.
So how was your initial trainers down there?
I was trained by Steve Kern, um, one of the most awesome human beings I've ever met. Norman Smiley, who I probably owe a majority of my wrestling career life to. Such a good, genuine human being. I mean, our running joke is we still owe each other a phone call. So we text each other on birthdays and Christmas and stuff. We say, okay, I owe you a phone call. We probably haven't spoken on the phone in about 5 years. Dr. Tom Pritchard, um, and occasionally we would have some guest trainers come down there. And of course, we had the American Dream Dusty Rhodes,
Hmm.
who I've gotten to rub shoulders with, on a daily basis for 5 years while I was there, and that was surreal in itself.
How was learning from Dusty and just seeing his mind work?
I tell you what, man, Dusty's like a Rubik's cube. Just when you think you're about to solve the puzzle and what he's gonna do, he throws something else at you. You're like, holy crap, okay. Well, I didn't expect him to ask me this question, and I don't know how I should respond to it. I don't want to say anything stupid, because if you say something stupid, Dusty will definitely let you know. He goes, "Okay, all right, kid, you're a dumbass."
Now, when you were training, did they have any ideas for you, or did you have any ideas on what you wanted to do? How was that process like?
So when I so when I came up, I was a huge fan of the Four Horsemen. Triple H was always one of my favorites. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I always loved Batista, Brock. You know the big body guys.
Yeah.
If you understand, you know what I'm saying. So I get down to FCW, and on the Indies, I'm considered a really big guy. I'm 6 foot two. I'm 240, 250 pounds. And the average size guy in the Indies is what 5'6", 5'7", maybe a 150, 175. So I'm tossing these guys around like they're like they're peanuts, right? I get down to Florida and I stand in the ring with Sheamus. Sheamus is freaking 6'6", 270, 280 pounds. I'm like, okay, this probably isn't going to be the kind of character I think I'm going to have right now. So I got to kind of switch things up. So it kind of threw the way that I thought that I would be perceived down in FCW was different from the idea that I had for myself. So I had to really take a step back and say, okay, this is how I look compared to these guys. This is where I am in the fold compared to these guys. How can I fit myself into this mold to where it makes sense storyline so everything fits and everything works together? And a lot of that was, a lot of that was left up to me, which I think another thing too, when it was FCW, we really didn't have that that direction. Okay, this is what we see for you. This is where we want you to go. This is how I want you to try to carry your character. It was more like, okay, let's throw shit up against the wall and see what sticks.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And it was a lot of that. It was a lot of that. Like I want to say they first had me working with Michael Tarver, who is still one of my best friends to this absolute day. Um, they had me working with Charles Evans.
Hmm.
Um, they had me working with Imani Lee, rest in peace, and also Victoria when she was there. So they put us in a group together, and it was pretty crazy. It was almost like a revamp of the Nation of Domination,
Hmm.
and it was going to be something pretty special. But I guess they didn't see that it was going to work out, so they kind of split us up. I did a lot of tagging with Duke Rotundo, rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. Um, they had me tagging with Big Ricklon. I did a lot of tag teaming with Xavier Woods, my second round. I tagged a little bit with Wes Briscoe, my second run around. So it was just a lot of, my first run I felt was better than my second run.
Hmm.
And I think because my first run, I was fresh off the Indies and the allure of making it to the WWE
Hmm.
was still kind of hanging over my head. I was still a little kid with this vision in my eyes. The second one was a little bit different. I felt like I learned a little bit more about the business,
Hmm.
and I felt that I tried to approach it from more of a business aspect versus more of an enjoying the entertainment aspect of it as a fan.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think when I put too much pressure on myself, it took a lot of the fun out of it for me.
What made that first run come to an end? Did they give you a reason?
You know what? You never really know, man. It's one of those things where you think you're doing everything right and everything seems to go as planned, and all of a sudden you get the phone call and say, "Hey, listen, just right now we don't think we have anything ready for you, but keep working at it, and you know, you could always come back." And I said, "Okay,
Hmm.
cool." So that happened in I want to say 2010. I want to say. So when I got released in 2010, I said, "Okay, I'm gonna go back on the grind, work the indies for a little bit. I'm gonna, build up my name, and hopefully, they'll give me a call back." Well, I did exactly that. I wrestled out here in Florida for a little bit, Combat Championship Wrestling, ACW, a little bit for NWA Florida. I ended up winning the NWA Florida heavyweight title, the ACW heavyweight title, and the CCW heavyweight title, which is pretty cool. And just seeing that some of the names who also carry that title, man, it was like, okay,
Hmm.
it may not have been the NWA World Heavyweight Championship that Ric Flair held around his waist, but Steve Kern held that championship at one point in his life. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And Steve Kerr being one of my mentors, that made me really happy. So I said, okay, if this is the most I'm able to do, I'm able to step away from the light and know that I achieved something for myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how did the call come back?
So let's see. I was working for ACW. I was the Florida Heavyweight Champion and the ACW Heavyweight Champion. I want to say I had worked this show down in St. Petersburg, Florida. I know Shad Gaspard was there. Rest in peace, man. Shad Gaspard, man, he took really good care of me in FCW. Like I didn't really know anything, didn't know anybody, and I had stepped. I was already gone from the business at this time. But when I heard of his passing and how it happened, man, I immediately called my son in the car and just broke down in tears and said, "Listen, I love you. I just want to let you know that your dad will never stop loving you, and
Hmm.
anything can happen to you, and just know that your dad is always here." God, shit. Um, I'm sorry. Where were we?
How did your second run come about?
Second run came about. So I was working a match against in WWE he was known as Kazarni.
Hmm.
In FCW he was known as Sin Bodhi. So he and I had a feud at ACW going on for a few months, and it was for my championship. And a lot of WWE guys were there. And I want to say they shot some video footage and some pictures back into John Laurinaitis and Ty Bailey, who was they were head of the talent relations. And I said, listen, man, we heard about the work you've been doing down in Florida. They said, let's give it another run. I said, okay. I said, listen, this time we're gonna make some stuff happen.
Hmm.
So this is right around the time when the NXT show had just debuted. So the first season had already gone, and they were in the mix of producing the second season. So I had gotten signed right around the time they were getting ready to start making the plans for the second season. So I had gone and I'd done some interviews for the second season. I had cut some promos for the second season, and Johnny Ace came down and said, "Listen," he goes, "We got you slated for the second season of NXT, so I want you to be ready to go." Well, about a month after that, I was working a match, I want to say, with Damian Sandow and Titus O'Neil, and I suffered an inguinal hernia injury in that match that put me out of action for about a good six to 8 weeks. So it was just I think after that I lost a lot of momentum, and
Hmm.
when you're out of the ring for a long time, you kind of lose a bit of confidence in your ability. You feel what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So being out for that period of time and not really knowing what I wanted to do character wise, and I think a lot of my confidence just really got shot. I was going through some personal stuff at the time. And I think I kind of just let the rest of the world get away from me, and
Hmm.
I just kind of lost focus.
Do
So I
you
can't blame myself.
do you feel like FCW was overcrowded at all? Because I've talked about this with a lot of other talents, and it's like models, football players, wrestlers. Let's, like you said, throw shit against the wall. We'll see what works.
Yeah, like there were a lot of guys who were there that had no prior wrestling experience whatsoever. They had a great look. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Um, but you put them in the ring and they can hurt a guy because they're not really exactly sure about how to execute these moves. You know what I'm saying? Like this is,
Hmm.
you know, we know wrestling is not real, but at the same time, you have to know how to carefully take care of your opponent. You know what I'm saying? So we don't hurt
Hmm.
each other in the ring. Do I felt it was overcrowded? We had three trainers. We had Tom, Steve, Norman, and then Billy Kidman was training. Yes, there were a lot of guys there. There were
Hmm.
definitely a lot of guys there. Yeah.
There just wasn't enough trainers per trainees. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, we had three rings in like the training room, and then we had the main arena that had one ring. So you had the
Hmm.
girls working in one ring, and then you had some guys in the main arena. You had some guys in the other two rings in the other arena. And sometimes you maybe get 10-15 minutes of ring time,
Hmm.
which really isn't enough. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
wrestling is if you're out of the ring for a long time, and you're not gonna stay hot.
Yeah. Who took your place on the second season?
You know what? I do not know. I don't know who took my place in the second season, to be honest with you.
So after after your injury, you just felt like the world got away from you, and did stuff just not like, was your heart not in it then, or was your mind not in it, or?
I think my head just wasn't in it anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was we had we had road crew that we would go around and paste up pictures and stuff like that all over the towns that
Hmm.
we were going to work in. And I noticed I was doing more road crew than I was working shows. And so I said, listen, dude, I said, it's cool to get paid to hang up papers, but this isn't why I moved down to Florida. I can't move to Florida to wrestle.
Hmm.
and I'm not working any shows, so you kind of see the writing on the wall after a while. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so you know, even though I wasn't working the shows, we had a new crop of talent that were trying to come in and get recognized and get signed to FCW. These were people that could actually pay a monthly fee at FCW and come to learn how to wrestle. And Norman Smiley was there working at night. I said, listen, I said if I'm not going to wrestle while we're at practice, I'm not working on shows, then I'll go in and I'll help Norman Smiley train these kids in the morning. I'll help them train in the evenings. And I'm hoping at least me putting in some extra effort, the word will get passed around that I'm in this, and
Hmm.
whether I'm in it to be a trainer, whether I'm in it to wrestle for myself, I want to be here, and I want to be put in a spot where I can actually be utilized.
Did they take you up on that offer, or
Unfortunately, not.
no?
Unfortunately, not. But it's okay. It is totally okay.
So when your release came, was it just a mutual decision, or did?
It was funny. So I was I was on the fence because I had just found out that my ex was pregnant and we were going to be having a baby. I said, okay. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, here I am in Florida. I don't really have any, I don't have a college degree. I don't have any trade skills behind me. I don't know if I'm going to get the phone call to go on the road or if I'm going to get the phone call to be fired. So the best thing that I can do is I need to take control of my own destiny.
Hmm.
So I had went to a college, Kaiser University, that's local here in the Tampa area, and I found that with the injuries that I had, I really enjoyed um, not necessarily going through the therapeutic process, but I enjoyed the way that those people made me feel while I was there. Right? They made me
Hmm.
feel like I could accomplish anything. So I looked into going to school to be an occupational therapist. So that's what I did. Well, after I went to school and I registered for school, my plan was to go to, still train at FCW, but still take classes on the side like Xavier Woods was doing. He actually got his PhD while he was in WWE. So, mad kudos to him for that. So I said, okay, I'm gonna take a page out of X's book. I'm gonna do the same thing. Just as I had registered for school, I was leaving the office and I was gonna call Johnny and just let him know what was on my mind. And as I was dialing his number, he called me. I said, Johnny, I said, this is crazy. I was just about to call you because I wanted to talk to you. He goes, what's on your mind, man? I said, well, listen, I said, I don't know what's happening down here. I said, but I haven't been in the ring very much. I said, I'm just doing road crew. I said, so I don't know if I need to call you and tell you I need to step away for a little bit and get my shit together, or if we just cut our ties mutually. He goes, listen, man. He goes, right now, I don't really have anything for you. He goes, I want to keep you on the roster, but right now we don't have a place for you. I want to say Bobby was on his way back. Um, Booker was still there. Shelton was on his way back. MVP was still around. So as far as the African American demographic, we had that covered in WWE already. There really wasn't anything for me. So he said, "Listen," he goes, "Go out to Puerto Rico." He said, "Go do some more work. We'll stay in touch, and we'll bring you back when the time is right." Well, I went to school and got my degree and found out, you know what? I love what I do. My destiny's in my own hands, and my wife and I started our own business, and I don't have to answer to anybody. I'm able to make more money than I made when I was with WWE,
Hmm.
and I make my own schedule. So as much as I loved being in the WWE, um, I was able to regain my freedom, which means a lot more to me. So I can spend time with my wife and my son, and we do what we want when we want. And
Hmm.
I don't think there's any better payoff than that.
No, I couldn't agree more. Has there been any talk since that day?
With WWE,
Hmm.
there has not, man. I'm still friends with a lot of the boys. Like me and Biggie still text. I still hang out with Michael Tarver periodically. Um, I still hang out with well, his name is Bones, but a couple of the referees that were they're on the main roster. We still talk occasionally, and I don't know if you remember Cable Jones.
Hmm.
He was in FCW also, yeah. So he's a really good buddy of mine too. He was in my wedding, so yeah, I still talk to a lot of the boys. But as far as wrestling goes, I'm not sure. I mean, my son is now 12.
Hmm.
He's never seen me actually wrestle a match. So it was the other night I had made the decision I'm going to compete in my very first bodybuilding show, June 29th. And I said, you know what? I said, wouldn't it be cool to have one last run so my son can actually see me in action in the ring? and then I can ride off into the sunset on my own terms.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of toying with the idea right now. I'm not too sure, and the only reason why is because in 2019 I was diagnosed with epilepsy, and we don't know where it came from. It's idiopathic epilepsy. I've suffered a number of concussions
Hmm.
while I was wrestling, so it could be from that. But all of my doctors, my tests and brain scans and EKGs and everything like that, they show everything is negative. So I don't know what the cause of this stuff was. So I just got to be a little bit careful. I'm on medication right now, but everything seems to be fine. So who
Hmm.
knows? But I got to tell you what, though, I still watch the products. I still keep up with what's going on.
Hmm.
I still get a text from the boys every once in a while, like, "Hey, yo, watch this." You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of cool to know I had that connection. I mean, when Big E first won the title, I heard about it before I watched it, and I called him on the phone, and I watched him. I watched it on the television, and he watched me through FaceTime watching on the television. And as he pinned Bobby Lashley, I broke out into tears because he used to be one of my tag team partners,
Hmm.
and it was a genuine happiness for him because he is truly a workhorse,
Hmm.
and he's a genuinely nice guy. Yeah. So I was just so happy for him and all success. Yeah.
Is there any particular moments that stand out more than others during your whole run with WWE?
Oh man, I've had a lot of them, dude. I've had a lot of them. We used to wrestle at this place called Bourbon Street up in Newport Richie. You ever watch that movie, The Wrestler?
Hmm.
Remember how they wrestled in that old crappy bar? Okay, it was just like that, but it was so much fun. I'm talking about drunken rednecks everywhere, and they're cursing and swearing, and they're screaming, and dude, we had the best time working in that place. And I remember it was a tag team match specifically. It was a six-man tag. It was myself. It was Alpha Junior, and I want to say it was oh gosh, she was a third person. It was a six-man tag team match. Myself, Alpha Junior, and I want to say maybe Charles Evans against I want to say it was Joe Hennig or Curtis Axel. His name is Heath Slater and Tyler Rex, and that was pretty awesome. That was a banger. We had one myself and Michael Tarver versus Johnny Prime, and I think that was Heath Slater as well. That was a really cool one. Yeah, I've had some really cool ones, man. I wrestled D'Lo Brown in the FCW arena. That was really really cool. Yeah, I've had some awesome matches, man. Probably too many I can't even recount. Yeah, I've had some awesome times, dude.
Good. We've touched on it a little bit, but how's life been after WWE?
Life after WWE has been pretty cool. Like I said, I do miss the ring occasionally. I still follow the products. My family's good. My son's good. Life is good. I couldn't be happier, man. To be honest with you.
If there's any advice you could give to anybody getting into professional wrestling, what would it be?
Make sure you have a fallback plan.
Hmm.
I'm serious. Make sure you have some because you never know what it's going to be like on a day to day basis. I'm sorry. They may decide to change directions, um, and just do what you love, man. Do what
Hmm.
you love. Do what you love. Just make sure your heart's in it. If your heart's in it and you're doing what you love, then you don't work a day in your life.
Hmm. I think specifically for that era, like when you first got to FCW, and like those guys that were in OVW before that, I think that not a lot of people had a backup plan. So like I grew up
Right.
right above OVW, so I've always been
Right.
around developmental, and like a lot of those guys when WWE released them, like it hit them hard, and they went down
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bad
That
path.
that's
And
that's that's all they had, man. That's all they had. And right before I got signed, the wrestler came out. And one of the things that scared me was I didn't want to end up like Mickey Rourke's character. I
hmm.
didn't want to be the guy whose life revolved around the indies,
Hmm.
and he ended up on pills, and I didn't want to be that guy. That's probably what scared the hell out of me more than anything.
Hmm.
So when I got released the first time, I said, okay, I need to either get my game together, or I need to have something in my back pocket in case this phone call comes again and I'm not stuck with my ass out in the wind.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what I did. So yeah, things are cool, man.
Where can people reach out to you at?
Man, you can reach me on my Facebook page, Jay Nobles. You can reach me at my company, Noble Athletic Systems, at Instagram, or Noble Athletic Systems on TikTok.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking a little time out today for talking about your career. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do, sir. I always find the developmental system is very fascinating to me. It's my favorite. As I've gotten older and been around it, it's always like that's where your most fun is, I feel. Like
It is.
finding who you are.
Well, depending on who you are and where you come
Hmm.
from, your experiences can be very different. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? If you're a name, if you're a no name,
Hmm.
and you got some support behind you, you can really make something of yourself. Um, so I just say, just keep fighting, keep working hard, and don't be afraid to make waves. I think that's another thing too. Is I was afraid to make waves. I didn't want to piss anybody off.
Hmm.
You always hear about the politics backstage. You feel what I'm saying, and not
Hmm.
not saying the wrong thing to the wrong person, and not annoying this person. But we know that term. What is it? The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Hmm.
Well, I wasn't squeaky enough, and I felt I should have maybe been a little bit more squeaky, and I would have got some grease. So,
Hmm.
if let's say if all the stars align, and you see me walking out one day for the Royal Rumble,
See, like,
listen,
yeah,
anything can happen, man. You
that's
never
true.
know.
That's true. It's like we were talking earlier, like throwing shit against the wall, and now it's like longevity is key there. So it's like
That's it.
it, it's completely opposite. I feel like just over a couple of years to where, well, we got another guy, we got another girl, we'll be okay. But now it's like,
Right.
okay, let's see what we can really do. Let's change this. Let's do that. Let's not just back of the line.
And the really cool thing I like now is they're bringing a lot of the main roster guys down to NXT to
Hmm.
help put those guys over and build them up. You know what I mean? Like what
Hmm.
they're doing right now with Baron Corbin and uh, Braun Breaker right
Hmm.
now. You know what I mean? Braun Breaker was a former Intercontinental Champion on on the main roster. Now he's a tag team champion with Braun Breaker. So all that does is elevate Braun Breaker's status.
Hmm.
You feel what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
I think it's really neat what they're doing right now with those guys. So yeah, kudos to them, man.
It's
I
cool to
tell you
see
what.
how it's evolved.
Yes, I tell you what. If I could probably have any job in the world, I would like to work for the writers team.
Hmm.
I've got some pretty cool stuff up here.
And who better to help do that than people that have went through it and lived it and
Yeah,
know, you know.
that well, people that went through it, but people who also have been fans. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? I think I'm a really big fan of like mysteries and stuff
Hmm.
like that. So remember when the whole Rikishi thing happened? Who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Hmm.
And it ended up being Rikishi. Nobody knew who the hell. Nobody thought it was gonna be Rikishi. Like really, Rikishi? You? Why? You know what I mean? So stuff like that to get the reaction. Like what? You?
Hmm.
Really? Yeah. So it'd be really cool to see what happens at Mania this. I got some ideas in the back of my head what could possibly happen.
Hmm.
What I would like to see happen. But we'll see.
That's the only problem is sometimes we're like, oh, it's the smart move, and it's like, what the hell was that?
Right. Exactly. But I tell you what, it's gonna be a damn good one, man. What they're doing right now is great.
Hmm. I
And
agree.
Heel Rock, I'm loving the Heel Rock right now. I think he's doing some of the best work he's done in a long time. I love that they changed his music.
Yes.
They got the electricity coming down and the eyes are red and all of that stuff. He's wearing the Rock's wearing the $1 million vests and yeah, dude, it's great. Great.
It's
It's
like
great.
you want to hate him. You're supposed to hate him, but you can't when he does stuff like that. You
It's
just
like
can't.
it's so Michael Tarver and I, we always have conversations about wrestling, right?
Hmm.
And we think like so a really good heel is somebody that you really have to hate, right?
Hmm.
So you remember Stan Hansen?
Hmm.
You didn't like anything about Stan Hansen. He was this big, obnoxious, just bully. He just beat the crap out of you, right? There was nothing to like about him. And you, no matter what, you had to boo him.
Hmm.
But somebody like The Rock is so cool, right? He's so polarizing in every aspect of his life, whether it's acting, whether it's the WWE or whatever have you. He now owns the XFL, who's now they've buddied up with the USFL now. He's such a polarizing figure that it's impossible for you to hate him now.
Hmm.
You just can't. He's almost bigger than the business itself.
I
So
agree.
even when he's calling the city a bunch of crackheads, they're still cheering them on. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, sir. I appreciate it. I appreciate you
You are
taking the
very
time
welcome.
out. If I can ever do anything to help you out, please feel free to let me know,
You're
especially to
welcome,
get
and
back in that
likewise, man.
ring.
Likewise, likewise. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.